Robert Falkins.
And I'm Janie Ulmer. We're both assistant commissioners of the Indiana High School Athletic Association, and we love how high school sports play a key role in the life of every member of a school community.
That's because high school sports are a special place where everyone shows up to have the team's back.
It's amazing to see the whole community, students and parents, coaches and teachers, come together at the school to cheer on their student athletes.
Celebrating high school sports unites us all, and that experience is essential to the pride and passion of an entire community.
Be a champion of high school sports by buying a ticket to your high school's athletic events.
This is unity. This is pride. This is your IHSAA.
I'm attorney Darryl Isaacs, the Hammer. If a car accident has left you with a concussion or memory loss, you could be suffering from a traumatic brain injury. Just click to get help quick, so we can help you get the medical attention you deserve. Go to WeWin.com. That's WeWin.com.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment. And this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
Well, good afternoon and welcome to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. We're thrilled that you're with us. Hope you're enjoying your Saturday. Good football weekend. IU fell short, if you were listening to that. Here on 93 WIBC. Hey, they had a shot, man. They were down 21-0 at halftime. Came out, opened the second half with an onside kick. Reminiscent of Sean Payton and a Super Bowl against the Colts that also worked out well for the Saints at the time. But IU couldn't quite pull it off, man. They had a 4th and goal from about the half-yard line that could have tied it up with 4 minutes to go and didn't quite get it done. So, I don't know. There were some positive things. I didn't watch the whole game. I watched most of the second half and listened to pretty much all of it with the awesome coverage here on 93 WIBC. And I don't know that IU Nation is necessarily real depressed today. Louisville's obviously a quality program, but that was a winnable game, and they certainly had a chance to tie it there toward the end. Didn't quite get it done. But I hope you enjoyed the broadcast, and we're glad you're with us now. I'll tell you what, I've gotten as many calls and as much request for input on national Second Amendment related news here this week than I can remember. I mean, I'm sure with other things going on in Congress, there's been something similar. But I've been on Newsmax already this week. I was on the David Knight podcast that producer Carl actually hooked me up with. And then I'm on Newsmax again tomorrow morning at 7:15 a.m. If you're up that early, check that out on Newsmax TV, which is, I don't know, it's doing pretty well. I mean, last time I saw it's number 4, number 5, something like that, in all of the cable news networks. And a lot of people, millions of people are tuning into Newsmax. So check that out. I'll be on there at 7:15 tomorrow. And what we'll be talking about tomorrow morning, and what I've been talking about quite a bit this week, are the 3 federal gun charges that have been brought against Hunter Biden, son of the president. And a lot of folks want to know what these charges are. They want to know what the ramifications are. They want to know, could he really spend time in prison? What's the likelihood of a conviction? And there's a lot I don't necessarily know just from reading some of the court documents and from reading the news coverage from other sources. But I can certainly explain a number of things and go into some detail on, I think, some really interesting, very, very interesting aspects of this case. And, they say, love and war make for strange bedfellows. Well, I think litigation and fight over constitutional freedom sometimes can make some strange bedfellows as well. For instance, Hunter Biden, in his case, according to his lawyers, is already talking about making a constitutional challenge to the statute, at least one of the statutes involved, if not all of them. There are 3 different charges. And I'm not so sure I disagree with him on those constitutional challenges. So somebody look at me and go, hold on, you're supporting Hunter Biden? Well, I support gun owners, I support constitutional rights, and I support as much restriction as we can get on the government who's trying to put people in jail for exercising a right that's guaranteed under the Second Amendment. Does that mean I'm a fan of the Biden family? No. Does that mean I hope they avoid prosecution for obviously being a crime syndicate and having sold influence to foreign corrupt powers over a generation and gotten incredibly rich in the process? No, I hope they go to prison for all those things. But as to the particular gun charge at issue, old Hunter and his legal team have some things to talk about. So let's talk about what it is that he's being charged with. There are 3 counts in the indictment. So let's even back up. A lot of times, lawyers throw around terms and they assume people are going to understand what they are. In this case, there's an indictment, which means what? It means they took the case to a grand jury. Grand jury, a secret confidential proceeding where you bring in people, members of the public, or members of the grand jury, and the prosecutors present their case to them. Now it's one-sided. It's only the prosecutors. And they can compel witnesses. They have full subpoena power. But they present their case to the grand jury, and the grand jury just doesn't decide guilt or innocence. They simply decide whether there's probable cause to charge someone with a crime. And in this case, the grand jury they submitted this case to decided that, yes, there's probable cause to go forward with a prosecution based on their finding of probable cause as to 3 different counts, 3 different allegations, 3 different alleged violations of the law. They each carry their own criminal sentence. I'll talk more about that in just a minute. And by the way, what's the alternative to that? Well, prosecutors, and in the federal system, we call them U.S. attorneys. The appointed U.S. attorney who's the lead prosecutor for that whole federal district. So, for instance, Indiana has 2 federal districts, Northern District and Southern District. Indianapolis is kind of the borderline between the 2 districts in Indiana, but we're part of the Southern District here in Marion County, where I'm sitting here doing the show. You get north of Indianapolis, you get into the Northern District. So both the Northern District and the Southern District of Indiana and every other federal district across the country have a U.S. attorney that are appointed by the president. And then they hire assistant prosecutors. In the state system, we'd call them assistant prosecutors or deputy prosecuting attorneys. In the federal system, we call them AUSA for assistant U.S. attorney. So that's how the system works. And the U.S. attorney, if they choose to, can present simply a criminal complaint and file that in court. And that changes the process a little bit. But at the end of the day, it can have the same effect that you can still be convicted of a crime without the case having gone to a grand jury. Grand juries often give prosecutors or U.S. attorneys a little bit of political cover. Well, it's like, well, I didn't decide to initiate these charges. The grand jury decided there was probable cause for the prosecution. So it's sort of a third-party independent validation of what prosecutors in the federal system want to do, or in the state system. There are indictments available in the state system as well. So here there's an indictment. So it was presented to a grand jury. Grand jury came back and said, 3 different counts. There's probable cause to believe Hunter Biden committed these particular crimes. What are those 3 crimes? Interestingly enough, count 1 and count 2 are almost identical. In fact, I would expect the Hunter Biden defense team to raise a double jeopardy argument, to say, hold on, you can't prosecute him under 2 different laws for essentially what is exactly the same act. And these 2 crimes essentially have the identical elements associated with them. That's not quite true. And we'll see whether they're successful on that or not. And then the third is just a prohibited possessor charge. I'll get into a little more detail on all of those. And as always, I'll take your calls and with questions or comments. Give us a call, 317-239-9393. In fact, I just opened up the YouTube channel where we're broadcasting with the expert assistance of producer Carl. We're broadcasting this on YouTube. So if you go to YouTube and search for WIBC or 93 WIBC and just click on today's Gun Guy Show, you'll see a video broadcast. But there's a chat feature on that, and several people have said hi. And, well, hi back to you. I appreciate you listening and appreciate you saying hi there on YouTube. But in the meantime, we're going to take a break. We'll check out the phone lines here in a bit, but give us a call, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. We'll get back and discuss a little bit more about what's going on with Hunter Biden. Could he really see some jail time? And why do some gun proponents or gun rights advocates like myself, why we wouldn't be necessarily all that upset if these charges all get thrown out? Interesting spin. We'll be right back and discuss all those things on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
93 WIBC.
Anthony Richardson on the season's opening loss to Jacksonville.
First game, first experience. Felt good just being out there with my teammates. The energy was good.
Rushed and threw for a touchdown in the 31-21 loss.
Hear the news.
Fatal stabbing at a truck stop in Hendricks County over an argument on social media.
Another update is just minutes away.
An earthquake hit just west of Indiana's border.
2.5 magnitude earthquake hit Lawrenceville, Illinois, classified as minor.
93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our most popular class is Essentials of Indiana Gun Law, and our next one's coming up on Saturday, November 4th. This is 5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner, including a detailed discussion of the law of self-defense, including when you can use deadly force to defend yourself or others. I've defended many of those cases, and all that gets discussed right there in Essentials of Indiana Gun Law. This one's going to be 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday, November 4th at Indy Arms. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. You can sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Got to put the hyphen in there. It's tactical-firearms.com, and just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
Every business deserves a great deal. That's why, for a limited time, we're launching the Mobile Made Free event. With Comcast Business Internet, new and existing customers can get 1 year of unlimited mobile for free. Yep, you heard that right. An entire year, free. It's our best internet, powered by the next generation 10G network and with 99.9% reliability. Plus 1 line of free mobile for a year. The Mobile Made Free event is happening now.
Get started with internet and advanced security for $39 a month for 12 months with no annual contract. Plus, for a limited time only, ask how new and existing customers can get 1 year of unlimited mobile for free during the Mobile Made Free event. Call or go online today to learn more. Ends 9/21/2023. EcoBill and autopay required. New 100 megabits per second internet and Security Edge customers only. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply. Mobile offer requires 100 megabits per second internet and new unlimited intro-mobile service. Other restrictions apply.
Premier Deck Coating, the ultimate deck protection. Who are they? Well, they're a sister company of Rhino Shield, and Premier Deck Coating is the product you need if you're tired of applying the same old stain and paint every couple of years to your deck. It's Terry, Stacy, and David and I have a deck that's probably 25 years old. The countless hours and the money that we spend on maintaining that deck never ends. And then we heard about Premier Deck Coating, family-owned, based right here in Indy, and they are going to completely transform our deck with their special formulated product, which repels moisture, scratch-resistant in virtually any color that we want, and backed by a 10-year guarantee. No more spending time staining or painting every year. Premier Deck Coating will keep our deck looking great for years to come. Premier Deck Coating can also do fences and pergolas, too. For a free quote, call 317-696-4071 or visit premierdeckcoating.com.
AE Ammo is Greenwood's ammunition superstore. The largest variety in training, hunting, and self-defense ammo with the best prices locally guaranteed. Factory new 9mm FMJ ammo starting at $12 per 50-round box. Factory new 50-round boxes, $380 from $14.99 and $45 ACP from $18.99. And with the AE Ammo Customer Rewards Program, start earning points today towards money back to use on future purchases. Shop in-store or online at aeammo.com.
It's game time at York Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Plainfield. Score big savings during Jeep Adventure Days and Ram Power Days. Get a new Jeep Compass. Lease it just $299 a month. A new Jeep Grand Cherokee. Lease it just $359 a month. A new Ram 1500. Lease it just $349 a month. Start your next drive at YorkCDJRofPlainfield.com.
We're not number one.
You are.
You're number one at York.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
There are screening tests to catch cancer early. Visit cancer.org/getscreened.
A girl in Kenya dreams of becoming a doctor. An elder in Guatemala dreams of becoming part of a community. Reach out and change their world, and it will change your own. Unbound.org.
The Sundown Gardens Fall Kickoff Sale continues. 50% off all concrete and glazed pottery, statues, and fountains. 20% off all trees and shrubs in stock. 186th Street and Spring Mill Road.
When you're high, you feel different. But if you feel different, you drive different. So don't drive high. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back to The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. Tell you what, we've had a couple people call in already. And I'm going to get back into the discussion of what's going on with Hunter Biden. Could he really see the inside of a federal jail cell as a result of these gun charges that have been filed against him just last Thursday? And get into specifics on that. In the meantime, Jerry is called in. Jerry, what do you got for us, buddy?
Hey, I was just wondering, Daddy's president, so what's to keep Joe from giving his boy a pardon?
Nothing. Maybe if Joe perceives some political pressure. I don't know that Joe's conscious enough to perceive much. So unless one of his inner circle convinces him, that would be a bad political move, which I'm sure they wouldn't think twice about, frankly. Joe could absolutely pardon his son, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised to see it. Let's go back to the phone lines. Bob has called with a question. Bob, what you got for us?
Hey, Guy, I hope you're back on your bike after your incident. I'm sure you are.
Absolutely, I am. In fact, I got to tell you, you know what, Bob, I'm glad you asked me that, because I got to tell you, I live on the far north side. I live in Zionsville. But for very specific reasons, I took my bike all the way down to Southside Harley-Davidson because they're a family-owned business. I've been going in there since they were on near South Meridian, right just south of downtown. And I'm so glad I did. And this is unpaid, unsolicited, uncompensated. There are wonderful people down there. It doesn't feel like a big corporate dealership like a lot of the others do. And they were fabulous to me. I got my bike back quickly. It's beautiful. It's in better shape than it was. So anyway, forgive me for the endorsement there, as unsolicited and uncompensated as it might be. But I am back on my bike. But I'm sure, I think you want to ask me something totally unrelated.
Well, no, I know what you mean. I got an Ultra, and it doesn't. It's good to get out. But anyway, yeah. I set a reminder on my Apple Watch this afternoon to tune into the Gun Guy show, and Siri came up with Gun to Guy, GUNDAGAI. So you're free to use that if you want.
Okay.
But my real question was. Me and my dog are meeting up with some friends. We're going out to Yellowstone in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So I just purchased a Red Hawk 454 Casull.
All right.
And I was wondering what you thought about that versus a 10 millimeter.
Oh, gosh, you mean you're obviously concerned about big game, grizzly bear deciding it wants to have you for lunch, something along those lines?
Well, yeah, actually, I'm staying at a dude ranch. It's called the Bar Inn Ranch. And two and a half weeks ago, across the street from where I'm staying is a trailhead, and a woman was jogging, and she was killed by a grizzly.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I mean, I obviously, and you know the answer to this, I'd much rather have a long gun when you're talking about a grizzly bear and something very high velocity, because you've got an awful lot of tissue, hide, fur, fat, and to get through to hit anything that matters on a grizzly bear, and they're kind of armor plated. I was looking to do a grizzly bear hunt a number of years ago, and I did a little research, and like if a bear's charging at you trying to make a headshot, their head is literally like armor plated. It's built like a tank. And when they run, they tend to dip their head, and so that's just a losing proposition. But I as far as a pistol goes, I'd want the most velocity I could get, and I'd want the biggest projectile I can get, and so that would probably push me over toward the 454 Casull, which is an awesome round anyway. Now with the 10 millimeter, you're dealing with a much smaller projectile, but you're also talking about very nice velocities, particularly. Like I had a Glock Model 20 10 millimeter for a while, and Glock sold a 6-inch hunting barrel where you generated more velocity. And velocity is the name of the game. I mean, velocity, if you look up the equation on how you calculate muzzle energy, it has twice the effect of the mass of the projectile. So anyway, either one of those, is going to be, okay, I suppose, but man, I'd want a long gun, and I know that's probably not convenient for you to carry around. I'd want a long gun and something that I'm convinced would penetrate all that critter that's coming at me trying to have me for lunch. I mean, I've got a 300 Win Mag. It's a big, heavy, long range rifle. But if I had my choice of shooting a grizzly with something, especially if he's coming at me, I'd want something along those lines, realizing it's not always logistically feasible. Well, hey, let's get back to Hunter Biden. So first of all, what's the guy charged with? What he's charged with is 3 different counts. And the first 2, counts 1, counts 2, are almost identical. Because here's what happened. He went in to buy a gun, a revolver, at a gun store. And like everyone who's buying a gun in a gun store, you fill out essentially the application to purchase a firearm, and we call it a Form 4473. It's a standard ATF form. And you fill that out, and you put your identifying information on there, and then it asks you a series of questions. And one of the questions it asks you is, are you a user of or addicted to any illegal drugs? I think that's a 3rd question down, if I remember correctly. And recently here, and this is an interesting point as well, they even amended the form to say this includes marijuana in those states that have legalized marijuana at the state level. Now, that has nothing to do with Hunter's case, because we're not talking about marijuana. But as an aside, and relevant to some federal circuit court authority, I'll get back into that later. But in answer to the question, are you a user of or addicted to any illegal drugs, Hunter said no. And then later on, when you sign the form, you sign it right under a section that says you're hereby certifying, under penalties of violation of federal law, that your answers to this are true and accurate. So he said, no, I'm not a user of or addicted to any illegal drugs. And since then, he's come out publicly, including in his autobiography, and admitted that in this exact time frame, he was addicted to crack cocaine. And if you remember, this is a time frame we're talking about where he said, oh, yeah, on a live TV interview, he said, oh, I was so badly addicted, I'd crawl through my floor trying to find some crack I might have dropped into the carpet. And if I found something, I'd snort it. And he made the joke. I probably snorted more Parmesan cheese than anybody in history, because if it was down in my carpet, whether it fell off a pizza or otherwise, I was picking it up and snorting it. That's how bad I was addicted to cocaine. Well, when you say, no, I'm not a user of or addicted to any illegal drugs, then you come out and admit publicly, you're admitting to lying on the form. That lie on that form actually gives rise to the first 2 charges in the indictment against Hunter Biden. The first is, there's a federal statute that says if you make any false statement, either oral or written, to a gun dealer at the time you're buying a gun, and you know that to be a false statement, and you give it to that gun dealer, you make that statement, oral or written, with the intent of deceiving the gun dealer in order to purchase a firearm, then that's a federal crime. And that's 10 years in federal prison. That's count one. Count two is almost identical. It says when you include false information on a form that's required by a gun dealer to be kept under federal law and maintained, then that's also a crime. Now, in this case, it's the same misstatement. That's why I say I could see an argument that it's double jeopardy. You're being charged for two separate crimes for doing exactly the same thing, lying on the 4473. And there may be a decent double jeopardy argument there. Because, well, the first one is just making a false statement to the gun dealer. Second is lying on a form that the gun dealer then has to maintain. And the dealers, by the way, have to keep those 4473s in their records. I want to say 20 years. I always say 25, and people correct me and say, no, it's 20. So I think that's right. So that's count two. Count three is, well, he successfully passed the background check because remarkably, the guy doesn't have a significant criminal history. Consider that for a moment. Yet he because he didn't have a significant background or criminal history, he passes the background check. Then he gets the gun. However, another section of the federal code says if you're a user of or addicted to any illegal drugs, you cannot possess firearms. So lying on the 4473 is counts one and counts two. Count three is you cannot possess a firearm. You're a prohibited possessor. If you're a user of or addicted to any illegal drugs, as soon as you bought the gun and walked out of the gun store with it, you possessed it. As someone who now was admittedly someone who used and was addicted to illegal drugs at the time, you can't possess a gun. That's 10 years in federal prison. So the way this works out, if you go through the penalty provisions of each of these statutes, you could get 10 years on count one, 5 years on count two, 10 years on count three. I didn't do particularly well in math, but I'm pretty sure that's 25 years. A judge potentially could sentence him to consecutive sentences of 25 years in prison. I mean, that's the total potential downside. Is that likely to happen? Oh, hell no. Not even close. But we'll talk more about what we think the likely outcome is and what some arguments are from his defense team, some of which have been forecast already on national television. We'll talk a little bit more about that and continue to take your calls with questions or comments. 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. Give us a call. Join the discussion. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
I alphabetized my soundboard. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. F?
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
I have to go to S for Sopranos. Makes sense.
Yeah, I think you got it.
It's so clean now. It's fantastic. Yeah, we have clearly run out of things to talk about. There's nothing else going on in the world.
It's a great world, everything's so.
This show is stupid.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
The deals and specials are sizzling hot. It's the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show next Saturday and Sunday at the Hancock County 4-H Fairgrounds in Greenfield. The best dealers in the region will be at the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show. Just $6 for adults. Kids 12 and under get in free. Must be 18 or accompanied by an adult.
buy, sell, trade. This Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Hancock County 4-H Fairgrounds in Greenfield. For more info, visit centralindianagunshows.com.
21 days of beauty. 21 days with daily beauty steals of up to 50% off. 21 days of slay. 21 days of yay. 21 days of are you kidding me right now? Beauty's biggest event is on now till September 16th at Ulta Beauty. Discover irresistible deals on must-have brands like IT Cosmetics and Fenty Beauty by Rihanna. Plus, new launches from Pat McGrath Labs. Shop in store, online, or pick up today. Ulta Beauty. The possibilities are beautiful. Conditions apply.
This hour on 93 WIBC is powered by Sundown Gardens, Hamilton County's fall nursery headquarters.
Fox News, I'm Matt Napolitano. New England avoiding the brunt of what's left of Hurricane Lee, but power outages in the region are entering the hundreds of thousands.
Some power restoration efforts are currently on hold due to bucket trucks operating within high winds. Therefore, outages may increase before the winds subside and crews can get back to restoring power.
Pete Rogers with Maine Emergency Management. The Texas State Assembly standing by their decision to pursue articles of impeachment against Attorney General Ken Paxton, who was acquitted today by the state Senate on all counts.
This trial painted an accurate and clear picture of an out-of-control Attorney General who refused to listen to the desperate warnings of his conservative lawyers that he had entrusted to help run his office.
Texas Representative Andrew Murr. America is listening to Fox News.
You want to sell your home? You want to buy a new home? Hire the agent who is an expert on maximizing your home price fast. His name is Mark Dietl. Jim and Emily in Shelbyville. They were ready for some more space and an upgrade for their family. They heard about Mark Dietl. They were impressed by his aggressive marketing plan. Home sold in 2 days for cash at asking price. Plus, Mark also found a new and bigger, better home for Jim and Emily. And he arranged so that they could stay in their old home until move-in date. That's the kind of service you get from Mark Dietl.
Mark Dietl is the only real estate expert that we trust and recommend with the sale of our homes. Mark Dietl guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. What are you waiting for? Call Mark Dietl today, 317-755-4232, or go to markdietl.com. Mark, D-I-E-T-E-L, markdietl.com. Tell him Hammer and Nigel sent you.
PA Jewelers in Brownsburg is your place for fine jewelry, custom pieces, one-of-a-kind pieces, vintage pieces, and also your place to sell jewelry. 3754 South Green Street in Brownsburg, PA Jewelers inside Premier Arms. You have old jewelry from grandma or jewelry you don't wear anymore? Come sell it for top dollar at PA Jewelers. I've sold jewelry there. My wife has. You're going to love the prices. PA Jewelers inside Premier Arms, 3754 South Green Street in Brownsburg, premierarms.com.
Hey, it's JMV here for Sundown Gardens. The Sundown Gardens fall kickoff sale continues. This week at Sundown Gardens, 50% off all concrete and glazed pottery, statues, and fountains, and 20% off all trees and shrubs in stock. Sundown Gardens has a fresh shipment of fall decor, pumpkins, gourds, mums, and great nursery selection. Enjoy everything fall has to offer at Sundown Gardens, 186 in Spring Mill Road. That's sundown.gardens.com. sundown.gardens.com.
Show about gun rights, gun safety, and responsible gun ownership. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back to The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. Glad you're with us. Again, we got some people watching on YouTube. You can watch a video feed if you're so inclined. I always say the same thing. I'm not much to look at, but hey, if you want to watch video and listen to the broadcast at the same time, go to YouTube. I think Carl also has it up on the WIBC Facebook page, if I'm not mistaken. He's giving me the thumbs up. So welcome to do that, too. And there's a chat feature on there as well. So we're talking about the Hunter Biden indictment. 3 charges. I just explained what those are. Potentially 25 years in prison. Now, and you're hearing a lot about that. Is that realistic? No. Because, again, the guy, and Jerry called in, I think it was Jerry, and said, what's to keep the president from pardoning him? Absolutely nothing, other than political pressure. And I don't know that Biden feels much political pressure. I don't know that he feels much, period. But that could easily happen. But even short of that, short of a presidential pardon, then, someone with very little criminal history. First of all, it is unusual. And it's interesting. I'm going to play a bit of an interview from Hunter Biden's attorney here in a bit, probably next segment. But he wants to say, this is politically motivated. It's interesting that a Democrat or someone representing a Democrat, someone representing the Bidens, would complain about selective prosecution in this country. Think about that a minute. You got Trump with how many indictments now? How many different cases is he facing? Hillary Clinton destroyed 30,000 and some emails that were under subpoena at the time. Didn't get indicted for anything. The Biden crime family, and by the way, I've had people comment as I've talked about these gun charges. I've had people comment and say, "God, you don't understand. This is all a distraction. This is all sleight of hand." They want to file this relatively minor gun charge. Well, if I'm looking at 25 years in federal prison, I don't know, and they're all felonies. I don't know that I consider that minor, but they want to file this gun charge. It's not going to go anywhere, and that's a distraction because that's all anybody's going to talk about, as opposed to keeping the pressure on the criminal investigation of potential prosecution or indictment of the Bidens over a corruption scandal that Congress is looking at right now. The fact that millions and millions and millions of dollars came from these foreign countries, Ukraine, Russia, China. I mean, it goes on and on. And millions of dollars, and ostensibly, at least if we're to believe what we're hearing from some of the Republicans, who are part of the investigation, part of the committee doing the investigation, there's evidence that money made its way back to other members of the Biden family, including Joe. So they're selling influence. They're selling access. They're selling U.S. policy to the highest bidder. And would I rather see a prosecution on that? Absolutely, 1,000 times more. Do I care about this gun charge? I think it's interesting that Hunter Biden is getting prosecuted. But here's a fact for you that may come as a surprise. Although I've talked about this years ago here on the Gun Guy Show, and that is that, whenever we hear about authorities, politicians, gun control advocates pushing for more and more laws, a lot of us will say, why don't you enforce the laws you already have? They're about, well, we need tougher background checks. Well, hold on. What about holding people accountable when they fail a background check and it turns out they lied on the application, on the 4473 form? And I had a whole segment or two on this show, it's been 2 or 3 years ago, where I talked about the incredibly low percentage of people that get prosecuted who are caught lying on the 4473. And it's not even something as amorphous, as sort of wishy-washy as, are you a user of or addicted to illegal drugs? Some people go in and say, have you been convicted of a crime for which you could have been sentenced to more than a year? That's a felony. That's exactly the same thing as asking you if you have a felony conviction. And people will go in there and say no when they've got multiple felony convictions. They're just hoping somebody screws up and gives them the gun, notwithstanding the fact they're ineligible. And it happens a lot. Now, sometimes people mark no on that question because they honestly believe they don't have a felony conviction, or they may be right. They maybe had a felony conviction and it was expunged, or they had a felony conviction and it was later reduced to a misdemeanor. And you can honestly and legally answer no to that question if that applies to you under any of those circumstances. And sometimes the federal records haven't been updated, and so they get rejected on their gun purchase, and the federal government just screwed it up. But there are people who legitimately lie. There are people who go in there and say, no, I don't have a felony conviction, or no, I'm not under a domestic violence order of protection, or no to whatever, and they're caught lying. And you know that dramatically less than 1% of all those people have ever gotten prosecuted, historically, going back a couple of decades. And I actually crunched the numbers here on the Gun Guy Show one time. It's like 1/10 of 1%. So for somebody to say, well, why is Hunter Biden being prosecuted for this? This is kind of a, no pun intended, trumped up charge. It is true that very few people get prosecuted for what he's being prosecuted for. And frankly, many of us who resist more gun control laws, more people say, oh, we need more laws. We need universal background checks. We need tougher background checks. We need mental health checks. A lot of our reaction has been, why don't you enforce the laws that are already on the books? And why don't you talk to the U.S. Attorney's Office and the ATF about arresting people and prosecuting people who honestly do, dishonestly, I should say, do lie on the 4473 and get caught. And in that context, when we come back, I'm going to play a little clip from Hunter Biden's attorney. We'll kind of talk about how all that coalesces when we come back. In the meantime, join the discussion. Give us a call, 317-239-9393. That's 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
That didn't take long. A Night with WIBC, brought to you by Relay Indiana, is once again sold out. One night only. Tony Katz.
I avoid the use of the words dumb and stupid.
Kendall and Casey.
I'm just strapping you in. Go for it.
Hammer and Nigel.
Loud, it's chaotic.
And special guests. It'll be informative. It'll be funny. It won't be PC. Didn't get your ticket? Register and win the few we have left online at WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. As you've heard me say, our most popular class is Essentials of Indiana Gun Law. This is 5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. Our next one's coming up on Saturday, November 4th at Indy Arms. It's 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. There on a Saturday. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. Again, this is the most important legal information you need. If you own a gun, you carry a gun, this is exactly the kind of information you need to stay on the right side of the law. You can sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone.
Done.
By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
Every business deserves a great deal. That's why, for a limited time, we're launching the Mobile Made Free event. With Comcast Business Internet, new and existing customers can get 1 year of unlimited mobile for free. Yep, you heard that right. An entire year, free. It's our best internet, powered by the next generation 10G network and with 99.9% reliability, plus 1 line of free mobile for a year. The Mobile Made Free event is happening now.
Get started with internet and advanced security for $39 a month for 12 months with no annual contract. Plus, for a limited time only, ask how new and existing customers can get 1 year of unlimited mobile for free during the Mobile Made Free event. Call or go online today to learn more. Ends 9/21/2023. Eco-bill and auto-pay required. New 100 megabits per second internet and Security Edge customers only. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. After promo, regular rates apply. Mobile offer requires 100 megabits per second internet and new unlimited intro mobile service. Other restrictions apply.
Hey, did you know Vistaprint prints everything a small business needs? Like if a barbershop needs signage, we print outdoor signs, posters, and banners. Or if a ballet school needs merch,
1, 2,
we print tote bags, t-shirts, hoodies, hats. Or if a coffee shop needs a total refresh,
latte for Mike?
Vistaprint designs logos and prints it on menus, mugs, paper bags, anything. Because with Vistaprint, the printabilities are endless. Print it all with 25% off for new customers with code NEW25 at Vistaprint.com.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Rizumkizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKY-RIZZI to learn more.
I asked what kind of family she wanted. She said, a family like yours.
Learn more about adopting a teen at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
I'm attorney Darrell Isaacs, the Hammer. When someone you love is the victim of a wrongful death, it's a terrible tragedy. At Isaacs & Isaacs, we're ready to get your loved one the justice they deserve. There are strict time limits to file a wrongful death claim, so please go to WeWin.com today.
Head to the WIBC.com contest page and enter for your chance to win a family 4-pack of tickets to the 34th Annual Indianapolis Fall Boat and RV Show, September 22nd through the 24th at the Indiana State Fairgrounds.
Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. And I'll tell you what, Dan has called in with a question about something I think I was just talking about. Dan, welcome to The Gun Guy Show. What do you got for us?
Hey, I was just wondering, so many years ago, was charged with a felony that was reduced to a misdemeanor.
Yep.
And then within the past few years was able to successfully, without being dishonest, get a gun permit to carry.
Yep.
Actually transferred my address a couple of times. Went to purchase a gun, and they actually denied it because the initial charge was a felony, even though it was reduced to misdemeanor.
Yeah, they're wrong, Dan. And listen, I got to tell you, I deal with this so much. Like I'll go in and file on behalf of clients what's called a petition under alternative misdemeanor sentencing, where you can get felony charges reduced after the fact. I'll do expungements for clients, and I swear the FBI, the people doing the NICS checks, the National Instant Criminal Background Check System run by the FBI out of Wheeling, West Virginia, I swear they've gotten orders from on high from the Biden administration just to screw people over at every opportunity. I'm convinced they're doing this because if you've had your felony reduced, then you're legal to buy a gun. And it doesn't matter that you were charged originally or even convicted originally if it was thereafter reduced to a misdemeanor. And the law on this is clear. And so they're just jacking you around, and they want you to go through an appeal. They may deny your appeal. They're literally looking to make life as miserable as they possibly can for people who are trying to do the right thing and do what you did, which is go in, fill out your 4473, answer it honestly, comply with the law. You're not a prohibited possessor. And the ATF, the FBI, as part of this process, are absolutely intentionally denying gun purchases that they know are legal gun purchases. That's the other side of this same equation. So all I can do is tell you to appeal it and to fight them on it because you're right and they're wrong, Dan. Let's get back to a discussion about Hunter Biden's charges. So his lawyer appeared on the same Newsmax. Actually, Newsmax just played a clip of his lawyer, was actually talking to CNN. But I appeared on Newsmax yesterday, and I may have mentioned I'm on Newsmax again 7:15 in the morning tomorrow. But as part of that same story where I was talking about Hunter's gun charges, Hunter's lawyer had something to say.
If you think about it, what has changed? They knew all the facts for years. The law, if it has changed at all, as you pointed out, there have been at least 2 federal courts that have found this law in particular to be unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. And therefore, you have to ask what changed. And what changed, you also just talked about. It is the folks like Chairman Comer and the Republican MAGA crazies who have been pressuring this U.S. attorney to do something to vindicate their political position. And guess what? They succeeded.
So, again, interesting to me that you're having someone representing a Biden complaining about selective prosecution. But again, I give the guy points on a couple of different issues. One is he's right that very, very few people are prosecuted for these kinds of charges. Now, do I think it's because it's pressure from the MAGA crazies? Whenever somebody uses MAGA, the MAGA extremists or MAGA crazies or whatever it is, I always want to break that down and go, do you remember what MAGA stands for? It stands for Make America Great Again. You're criticizing me? You call me a MAGA extremist. Hey, look, I'm not the most extreme Trump supporter by any stretch of the imagination. And I've talked right here on the show that he hasn't always been a friend of the Second Amendment, and he made a dramatic mistake on bump stocks, which I've talked about a lot. But I enthusiastically voted for the guy in 2 general elections. I did not vote for him in the 2016 primary, I am first to admit. But I was happy to vote for him in the generals. But let's just say, to call me a MAGA extremist, that means I'm extreme in my views on wanting to make America great again? And you're using that as an insult, and I'm supposed to be offended? I never understood that. But listen, if political pressure was brought to bear, I'm not so sure that the charges were filed because they simply melted under that pressure, or because they thought, hey, let's give them this gun charge and take the heat off the corruption charge. That really, I think, is where the attention ought to be. Wouldn't be so surprised. We're going to take a break here as we approach the top of the hour. We come back, we'll talk about this other issue, which is this law, at least one of the laws that Hunter's being prosecuted under, unconstitutional? Interesting discussion. That's what we'll get into when we come back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Rizza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
QC Kinetics is not exaggerating when they say this. QC Kinetics can change your life. You can live again without chronic joint pain and without drugs or surgery. Tony Katz here, and QC Kinetics is advanced regenerative medicine. They take your body's own concentrated healing properties and put them right into your joint to restore and repair that damaged tissue that's causing all of that horrible pain. And unlike surgery, there's no downtime with QC treatments. If you have constant pain in your knees, hips, shoulder, or back, you need to call and get a free consultation from the medical professionals at QC Kinetics today. Call QC Kinetics and see how the latest advances in precision regenerative medicine can attack your pain and bring you lasting relief. Call QC Kinetics right now. 317-559-PAIN. QC Kinetics is in Eagle Creek, in Greenwood, and now in Carmel. Call 317-559-PAIN. 317-559-PAIN. Eagle Creek, Greenwood, and Carmel. QC Kinetics. 317-559-PAIN.
It's game time at York Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Plainfield. Score big savings during Jeep Adventure Days and Ram Power Days. Get a new Jeep Compass. Lease it just $299 a month. A new Jeep Grand Cherokee. Lease it just $359 a month. A new Ram 1500. Lease it just $349 a month. Start your next drive at YorkCDJRofPlainfield.com.
We're not number one.
You are.
You're number one at York.
Want to explore using Mitsubishi electric ductless mini splits to heat and cool your home or business? Learn more at AbsoluteComfort.org. That's AbsoluteComfort.org.
Want to look your best? Then go to the best. Go where I go. 459 Barber Lounge. Across from the Fashion Mall on 86th Street. 459online.com. Tell them Tony Cat sent you.
Sundown Gardens Fall Nursery Shipment is here and the products look outstanding. Visit them this fall for all nursery, pumpkins, gourds, decor, and mum needs. 186th Street and Spring Mill Road.
Broadcasting from the Peterman Brothers Heating, Plumbing, and Electrical Studios. This is Indy's Mobile News, 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
Lee makes landfall in Canada. I'm Matt Napolitano, Fox News. What's left of what was once a Category 5 hurricane having some impact on much of New England with tropical storm-like conditions.
The wind has picked up in such a big way over the past, say, half an hour to an hour or so. The wind's actually, unfortunately, leading to some cosmetic damage to trees. We are on a pier. Again, we are in Bar Harbor, Maine. This is in Mount Desert Island. It is the largest island in Maine. Not only the winds just whipping these trees around, the ocean is absolutely just roaring as we speak. And what's interesting is the fact that just after 6 o'clock this morning, we were actually at low tide. We're expecting for the tide to increase by, get this, an astonishing 10 to 11 feet.
Fox Weather's Michael Estime in Bar Harbor, Maine. Day 2 of the UAW strike as the White House continues to watch negotiations between auto workers and the big three automakers.
President Biden sent his acting labor secretary Julie Su and a senior advisor Gene Sperling to Detroit to help resolve contract negotiations between the United Auto Workers and the big three automakers that the president says do need to give more in concessions.
Record corporate profits, which they have, should be shared by record contracts for the UAW.
The president has labeled himself the most pro-union president ever, but the UAW has been critical of the electric vehicle transition, which require fewer parts, less labor, and often non-union workers to assemble. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Reps from Ford and General Motors meeting with UAW negotiators today, calling the talks reasonably productive. Stellantis is set to return to the negotiation table on Monday. America's listening to Fox News.
I'm Dana Perino, co-host of The Five and co-anchor of America's Newsroom. Join me for my brand new podcast, Perino on Politics. Listeners of Everything Will Be Okay will gravitate toward this podcast too. Every Monday, I'm going to talk to people I trust in politics as they tell me what they're seeing and thinking in the 2024 election cycle. As they prep me to cover the upcoming election, they'll prep you, the voters, too. Make sure you subscribe to this series on foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you download podcasts and leave a rating and review.
From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
Hey there, it's me, Kennedy. Make sure to check out my podcast, Kennedy Saves the World. It is 5 days a week. Every week, we check in with Jimmy Fallon, bring in authors for the book club, and even treat some of your favorite Fox personalities to a very special happy hour. Download and listen at foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast.
Kennedy Saves the World. America's listening to Fox News.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
It was not her day. I'm Sasha Nixon. Here's what's trending this hour. Noblesville police say they stopped a woman earlier this week based on information they had gotten from a national crime database, but they soon learned that that woman was innocent.
We realized that the information that was put into the computer must have been wrong because we had the rightful owner of that vehicle with us.
That's Noblesville Police Lieutenant Bruce Barnes talking to Wish TV. Apparently, Indy Metro Police had incorrectly entered information about a stolen car into the database. IMPD confused the stolen car victim, Amber's data, with that of the woman Noblesville Police stopped, Amber. In honor of Rosh Hashanah, or the Jewish New Year, Hoosier leaders posted messages for their Jewish followers. The holy holiday is a time for Jews to celebrate God's creation of the earth and to prepare for 10 days of repentance. Senator Todd Young, former Vice President and Indiana Governor Mike Pence, and Indy Mayor Joe Hogsett all tweeted Shana Tova to those celebrating the holiday. A popular community event celebrating German culture and heritage is less than a month away. Craig Mintz, president of the Athenaeum Foundation, says there is so much to do at German Fest.
We've got tons of polka bands, dance groups, a Kinderland, which is a kids' village. This year it's fantasy themed. And we've got wiener dog races and a plethora of other German heritage vendors and booths.
German Fest will run from noon to 6 p.m. on Saturday, October 7th. Get tickets and learn more at athenaeumindy.org. On the level, on the go, and on WIBC.com. Now here's the forecast from the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
Tonight, mostly cloudy, low temperatures in the upper 50s. Sunday, scattered light showers possible mainly in the afternoon. Our high temperatures do get into the low 70s. I'm Wish TV Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
As a caregiver, managing your loved one's health can at times be overwhelming. This is Tina McIntosh, president of Joy's House and co-host of the Caregiver Crossing radio program. In a moment, I'll share 3 tips to help you manage your loved one's medical care effectively.
At Cardon Senior Living Communities, you'll find our teams share a commitment to enhancing the lifestyle and well-being of the people we serve every day at every stage of life.
Tip number 1, keep a list of all medications, dosages, and schedules to ensure your loved one is taking their medication correctly. Second, attend doctor's appointments with your loved one when you're able. And finally, stay organized by keeping forms, notes, and other important documents in one secure place. More tips like this are available anytime at caregivercrossingradio.org. With new weekly content created by Joy's House and distributed in partnership with Network Indiana, we're an on-air and online support group for Hoosier family caregivers. Hear conversations with experts, access the library of online education, and more at caregivercrossingradio.org.
What if the next time you painted your home was the last time you painted your home?
Our home has had Rhino Shield for 10 years.
Rhino Shield. Call 888-RHINO-41. Don't paint, don't vinyl. Go Rhino.
The Indianapolis Public Library. More than just books. Visit your local branch today.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment. And this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for hour number 2 of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. Glad you're with us, whether you're just joining us or you've been here throughout the first hour as well. By the way, I got to tell you, just when I got up to take a break, walk out of the studio there at the top of the hour, there was some leftover baklava from the Hammer and Nigel show yesterday. Apparently someone from the Carl's the Greek Festival, isn't it, that's going on right now in Indy? Does that sound right?
I think you know better than I do, because you're the one that said it was from the Greek Festival.
I'm pretty sure, well, it's baklava, so that would kind of make sense. And this is just from yesterday, and I'm not real shy about leftovers. I'm like, yeah, it'd be fine. It was fabulous. So assuming I'm right on that, and it's the Greek Festival, man, I'd be checking that out, because if everything is as good as day-old baklava, I got to tell you, there's got to be some pretty fabulous stuff down there. Let's get back to the discussion. And again, we want to take your calls with questions or comments throughout the show, 317-239-9393. You heard Hunter Biden's lawyer as broadcast there on the same Newsmax show. Again, he was given an interview on CNN, but Newsmax replayed it because they asked me and Cam Edwards from BearingArms.com. He used to be with NRA TV. I go way back with Cam Edwards. You hear Cam both as a guest on Tony Cast Today, and I've even heard him co-host for Tony when Tony can't be in town. And so you've heard Cam Edwards quite a bit right here on WIBC. And he and I have gone back when we both, he had his own show on NRA TV, I think since there was an NRA TV. And then I was a weekly contributor on a couple of other shows, including Dana Lash's show and then others as well. But at any rate, the segment that they played from Hunter's lawyer, he said a couple of things. He goes, well, this is just political pressure from the MAGA crazies. I addressed that right before the break. Kind of makes me chuckle. Democrats are complaining about selective prosecution in this country. Consider. But separately, he said, no, by the way, this law is unconstitutional. Well, what's he talking about? Well, there have been a couple of decisions, and at the Circuit Court of Appeals level, just last month in August, the Fifth Circuit. So this is the federal circuit. So if you go to one of the districts, and I talked about how states are divided up into federal districts, if you go to district court and you lose, you can appeal. And when you appeal a federal district court case, you go up to the Circuit Court of Appeals. In this case, a decision was made in one of these appeals, a case called Daniels versus U.S. And this is the Fifth Circuit. And that is the federal appellate circuit that has jurisdiction over appeals coming out of the federal districts in Texas, Louisiana, and Mississippi. So it's limited. But it's a relatively conservative court, and they've issued a number of decisions. For instance, I talked about the Raheny decision that they came out with a few months ago, and that was where they said the law that prevents people under a domestic violence order of protection cannot possess firearms, that law was unconstitutional. And they did so under the new Bruin decision that came out of the Supreme Court in June of 2022. And I've talked a lot about Bruin. I'll talk a little bit more about it in the context of the Hunter Biden situation. Well, the same court came out just in August and said the law that says someone who is a user of or addicted to illegal drugs, as applied to this Mr. Daniels involved in that litigation, is unconstitutional. Now, it didn't say what Hunter Biden's lawyer said it said, which is the law is unconstitutional on its face across the board. They said as applied to this particular guy named Daniels, who was appealing his conviction, it was unconstitutional as to him. What's the difference? Well, he was a guy who was caught with some marijuana in his car. And in response to law enforcement officers, they said, you smoke marijuana? He says, yeah, a few times a month. He might have even said several times a month, I smoke marijuana. And based on that admission that he was a user of an illegal drug, he was convicted of the same crime that's set out in count 3 of the indictment against Hunter Biden. In this decision that just came out in August, just a month ago, came out and said, as applied to this guy, who, by the way, and the court, it really emphasized this, and this may or may not apply to Hunter as well, said there's no evidence he was intoxicated on marijuana or anything else at the time that he was found in possession of a gun. He was convicted just based on saying, yeah, several times a month, I smoke pot. And on those facts, they said, all right, under the text, history, and tradition, this is the Fifth Circuit when I say they, the Fifth Circuit said, under the text, history, and tradition test that came out of the Bruin Supreme Court decision last June, we have to look at whether this is constitutional. What's the text, history, and tradition test? Well, this is the whole ballgame when it comes to the Second Amendment now. And that's why the Bruin case was such a life changer for those of us fighting for Second Amendment rights or litigating Second Amendment rights. Because they threw out this balancing test that courts have been using for a long damn time, decades. They used to say, well, if the states have this compelling state interest, or the government has this compelling interest, like, keeping people safe, well, that's a compelling interest. Then we have to look at the extent of the infringement, and then there's this sort of balancing test, and they apply different levels of scrutiny, we call them. And on that basis, they say, well, there's some infringement here, but given the compelling state interest and the level of scrutiny we applied, it's just fine. And courts that have done that have done things like, say, upheld assault weapon ban, quote unquote, where those have existed in states across the country, or similar gun control laws. Well, the Bruin decision threw all that out and said, no levels of scrutiny, no balancing. It's text, history, and tradition. And this was Brett Kavanaugh's opinion, and it comes right out of the exact same things that he said during his confirmation hearings. And you remember the Democrats on the Judiciary Committee during his confirmation hearings, when they finally got past him, drinking beer and the false allegations of appear to be allegations of sexual assault. Once all that got debunked, when they were actually talking about what he what work he might do and opinions he might render on the Supreme Court, he said, I think constitutional analysis is text, history, and tradition. What is that? So we first look at the text of the constitutional right we're talking about. So here you look at the Second Amendment. What does it say? What does it mean? Well, the Heller decision from 2008 tells us a lot about what it means in terms of, yes, it does protect an individual right to bear arms. It protects those arms in common use for lawful purposes, and goes on from there. So, okay. And oh, by the way, it protects the right to both keep, which is possess, and carry, which is to bear arms in the wording of the Second Amendment. All right. So in looking at that, they said, okay, the Second Amendment clearly applies to Mr. Daniels. Now we look at the history and tradition of the regulation of gun rights in this country, going all the way back to the founding and before. Say, is there a long history and tradition of restrictions on this particular right in this country? Have there similar laws been upheld? And I'm not talking since the 60s or the 70s or the 80s. I'm talking about going all the way back to the ratification of the Second Amendment in 1791. And to some degree, it allows, the law that the founders were aware of and relied upon in even drafting the Second Amendment. So you can get into even some Old English law, European law, that a lot of U.S. law is based upon. And there they said, you know what, there's some history and tradition here around denying people the ability to possess guns who are at the time intoxicated, who are at the time dangerous. And then the state, I should say, in this situation, the case against Daniels was saying, well, what's a great metaphor is a long history of depriving people of possession of guns who are insane and therefore dangerous. And the court came back and said, hold on, you're analogizing that to someone who, quote unquote, smokes marijuana several times a month? Where's the evidence on this record that you're dangerous or you're an analog to being criminally insane because you smoke pot, even a few times or several times a month? There's just no connection. That's why they look a lot at marijuana specifically. But in that case, they came out and said what Hunter Biden's lawyer more or less got right, which is, as applied to this guy who was a pot smoker, the statute that the government's relying on in the third count against Hunter Biden was found to be unconstitutional under the text, history, and tradition test that was created by Bruen and was applied in the Daniels case and is being applied all across the country to strike down gun control left and right. So Hunter Biden does have a leg to stand on to say, as to him, now, again, different analysis. You're talking about crack cocaine as opposed to marijuana. What are the differences? Well, that'll be a big part of the litigation, especially to the extent that his defense team wants to rely on the Daniels case out of the Fifth Circuit, which doesn't directly apply. It's not controlling because it's in a different federal circuit because he's being prosecuted in Delaware, which is in a completely different circuit. But there is an argument to say he has a legitimate shot at the argument that the statute is unconstitutional because there's not a long history of saying in this country that it's illegal if someone just occasionally uses illegal substances or is even addicted to those illegal substances. Is it a closer call than the Daniels case? Yeah, sure. But that's what's going on out there. But I do think the laughable thing about all of this, do I think this is all a distraction? Yeah, I could easily see that. Do I think the attention wants to be drawn away from the corruption probe? Yeah, I think that's probably true. Do I think he sees jail time with no criminal history, despite the fact that he's a criminal, the fact that he's got no convictions on his record, there's one gun involved. No, it's not the kind of case that you're typically going to see much, if any, jail time. And if so, it might be a few months in a low-security club fed, they call it. Beyond that, I don't see a lot coming out of this, but what could really be interesting is what happens, and consider this, with the Biden administration, who's pushing for more gun restrictions, more limitations on the Second Amendment every opportunity they get. If a precedent based on Hunter Biden's case could ultimately lead to a more broad application of the ruling that, in fact, the statute the government's relying on is unconstitutional, which at the end of the day actually expands gun rights in the United States. If that were to, for instance, be ruled upon that way in the Supreme Court. Fascinating potential development. That's why it'll be interesting to watch. I think you'll see a plea, and I think you'll see a slap on the wrist. But these are 3 felonies he's being charged with, so we'll have to watch it closely. Right now, we're well past the quarter hour. We're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Kendall and Casey.
What is the most crazy thing you have ever done while being inebriated?
College in the middle of winter in northern Michigan. They're putting on the bikini and going out in the snow.
Oh, yeah. This may shock you, Casey, but I used to drink a lot in Broad Ripple.
Mm-hmm.
We could not get out of the parking garage. I was attempting to lift up the
gate? Why?
Because I was drunk off my ass, Casey.
Kendall and Casey. Weekdays 9 till noon on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our most popular class is Essentials of Indiana Gun Law. Our next one of those is coming up Saturday, November 4th. It's going to be 9 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. at Indy Arms on East 56th Street, conveniently located there on the northeast side of Indy. $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. For 5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. You can register right online at tactical-firearms.com. You just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
Premier Deck Coating, the ultimate deck protection. Who are they? Well, they're a sister company of Rhino Shield, and Premier Deck Coating is the product you need if you're tired of applying the same old stain and paint every couple of years to your deck. It's Terry, Stacy, and David and I have a deck that's probably 25 years old. The countless hours and the money that we spend on maintaining that deck never ends. And then we heard about Premier Deck Coating, family-owned, based right here in Indy, and they are going to completely transform our deck with their special formulated product, which repels moisture, scratch-resistant in virtually any color that we want, and backed by a 10-year guarantee. No more spending time staining or painting every year. Premier Deck Coating will keep our deck looking great for years to come. Premier Deck Coating can also do fences and pergolas, too. For a free quote, call 317-696-4071 or visit premierdeckcoating.com.
I feel bad for the Johnson kids next door. Their parents just use their phone for home internet. So when everyone's online, it could be mad slow. Tom can barely play a full round of Horse Commander 3. Luckily, we get fast and reliable internet from Xfinity, so I can game while everyone's on with basically no interruptions.
Hey, Jess, can I, borrow some eggs?
You want a game here?
Please.
Now through September 21st, get 75 megabit internet on the Xfinity 10G network for $20 a month for 12 months with no annual contract. And ask about how you can get one free line of unlimited mobile when you upgrade to 400 megabit internet. Go to xfinity.com/10G, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store today. Requires paperless billing and autopay with stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Not available in all areas. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet. After promo, regular rates apply. Actual speeds vary.
You expect your home to protect everything you love, but you don't expect the ways water is breaking down your crawl space and damaging your home. Musty smells, sagging floors, mold are just a few signs your crawl space is compromised. But there's one way to get answers to all your concerns. A free home inspection from Indiana Foundation Service. We put water back in its place. Get your free inspection at indianafoundation.com.
For the first time since 2014, the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship is back at the racing capital of the world. It's the TireRack.com Battle on the Bricks at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, September 15th through 17th. The sports car racing event is different than anything you've seen at IMS. The paddock is open for fans all weekend long, and this is the only IMS event where you can camp in the infield. Kids 15 and under are free with a paid adult. Get your tickets now at IMS.com.
Hey, you got any gum?
Yeah, check my backpack.
What's this?
Oh, that's naloxone. It can reverse an opioid overdose. I decided to always keep it on me after my friend almost died. It saved his life.
Oh, wow. I'm so sorry. That makes me want to have it with me, too.
You totally should. Check the pharmacy. It was actually really easy to get, and it's easy to use.
I definitely will. Thanks.
Naloxone saves lives. Learn more at cdc.gov/stop-overdose.
The Sundown Garden Fall Kickoff Sale continues. 50% off all concrete and glazed pottery, statues, and fountains. 20% off all trees and shrubs in stock. 186th and Spring Mill Road.
Indy Humane. Find your new best friend today. Visit indyhumane.org.
Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. And I'll tell you what, Kelly and Avon, our old pal, has called in. So let's go to the phone lines. Hey, Kelly, my friend, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing real good. How are you, Guy?
I'm good. What do you got for us?
Well, I got two things to bring up. One, Hunter's lawyer, Abby Lowell, I believe is his name. Hopefully he brings more to the Second Amendment fight than what I'm seeing in the court of public opinion.
Right.
Because you see him come on and he's saying, well, he only owned the gun for 11 days. And I'm yelling at the television, so?
Yeah.
And he never loaded it. And again, I'm yelling at the television, so? But he did, there's a little girl in Arkansas who's getting 75% less child support because of him, so maybe he is a pretty good lawyer.
Yeah, well, yeah, good point. Yeah, but that's when lawyers try to be all things to all people, because I'm guessing this guy doesn't have on his website, he's a Second Amendment lawyer, right? But yeah, they can fall short a little bit, because you're right. And by the way, Kelly, I bet you know the answer to this question. Do you know why Hunter only owned the gun for 11 days?
Because his it was sister-in-law / squeeze, if you will.
I was just going to say girlfriend, but okay.
Well, is that what they're calling it these days?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, which is just a whole other issue right there. But and on top of that, it's like this. It never ends for us. We've got the ATF trying to get their rules across with what a engaged in the business means.
Oh, well, yeah, and if I have time, Kelly, I'm going to talk about that, or maybe for another show, because that's a big deal and people need to understand about that. And I'm caught up in that. I've got 2 cases going on right now where people are being prosecuted under exactly the statute you're talking about. But to finish the point, and what I was raising, because we both mentioned girlfriend, squeeze, whatever, the reason Hunter only possessed that gun for 11 days is because he apparently was high out of his brain, and his girlfriend, or whatever designation we want to give her, took the gun, fearing that he was going to do harm to himself or someone else, and threw it in a dumpster. Apparently, what I keep reading is in immediate proximity of a school. And so for the lawyer to be bragging about, well, he only owned it for 11 days. Yeah, because while he was stone brainless, his girlfriend, fearing for his safety or hers or everyone's, threw it in a dumpster. I don't know that I'd be bragging in public about that when you're going to be publicly made to look like an idiot for doing so. But Kelly, as always, man, thanks for calling in. We're going to shift gears here a little bit. And I always want to call Gavin Newsom, governor of California. And everybody kept thinking he was going to be presidential candidate. And I'm sure we'll see him there at some point. Hell, he was running ads against Ron DeSantis in Florida. I mean, before the primary season really kicked off, and it was really looking like he was teeing up a campaign. And who knows, the Biden people, the National Democrat Organization may have just talked him out of it. But this guy is proposing a 28th Amendment. and he's proposing a constitutional convention in order for the Constitutional Convention to consider the 28th Amendment. And this is interesting. Now we need to go back to the Constitution a little bit and talk about amending the Constitution. It's been done 27 times. So it's not like it's a rare event, but it's not necessarily it's something that happens very often, considering it's been done. It's only happened 27 times in the 243 years this country's been around, or since the Constitution was ratified. Don't correct my math, anybody out there, because anybody who went to high school with me knows it's not my strong suit. But a constitutional convention is one way to amend the Constitution. Now, of the 27 constitutional amendments we have thus far, all 27 have been done through the alternative means that the Constitution spells out, and that is that if a resolution is passed by a 2/3 majority in each house of Congress to amend the Constitution, that then goes to the states, and their state legislatures have to ratify that, and it takes 3/4 of the states to ratify that constitutional amendment. 3/4, that's 37. Math again. So somebody would get your calculator out and tell me that's not 3/4. I believe that's right. 37 states. Have you seen an election map lately? Are you dividing red states and blue states? Yeah, Biden supposedly got 81 million votes, but an awful lot of them came from a handful of states. And an awful lot of state legislatures are going to be conservative on these issues. But that's one way to amend the Constitution, is with Congress passing a resolution, 2/3 majority in each house, then it goes to the states. Or alternatively, and this is right there in the Constitution as well, the states can call for a constitutional convention. 2/3 of the states have to agree, yes, let's have a constitutional convention. If 2/3 agree, okay, they get together. Now, everything's on the table. Some people have said to me, we need a constitutional convention so we can strengthen the Second Amendment. So, all right, well, you go into a constitutional convention, just consider that you're opening up a whole can of worms, or Pandora's box, or whatever metaphor you want to use. But it gives you some confidence when you look at, again, the red state, blue state map in terms of number of states and how that math works out. But the Constitutional Convention that Gavin Newsom wants to have is to consider his 28th Amendment. And what it would do is it would restrict and amend the actual Second Amendment, and as part of a constitutional convention. So this isn't getting a law passed in state legislature, because, by the way, in California, where he's governor, they have all these laws already. California has every one of these. But by the way, do you know what state, from going all the way back 40 years, let's go back to 1982, with the whole cornucopia, the whole wish list of gun control. I mean, everything: assault weapon ban, high-capacity magazine ban, universal background checks, waiting periods. Anything Shannon Watts or Michael Bloomberg or Joe Biden or Barack Obama or any other gun control proponents out there, anything they ever dreamt of, they have in California. For the last 40 years, going all the way back to 1982, you know what state has had the most mass shootings of any state in the country? California. Now, it's a very populous state, so that may not be a fair statistic, but at the same time, they've got everything in California, and they are learning, as we all do, anyone who pays attention, that criminals don't follow laws. But in this case, he wants a constitutional amendment to say that only people 21 and older can buy a gun, that there'll be universal background checks, so that means including checks on as between private gun seller and buyer, mandatory waiting periods. You imagine having this in the Constitution? Does that sound like a local law to you? Yeah, that's exactly what it sounds like. But oh no, Gavin Newsom wants it in the Constitution. And then, of course, they're going to ban most common semi-automatic rifles, so-called assault weapon ban. So that's what Gavin Newsom is calling for. Now, what's the likelihood of success here? Well, 2/3 of states go, oh yeah, let's get together and consider that, Gavin. Great idea. Separately, if somehow the bizarre happens And they would do that and then pass it by 2/3 majority in the Constitutional Convention. Are 3/4 of states, 37, going to ratify? Don't think so. So what's that start sounded like? It sounds like so much pandering to your liberal base to say, look what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to stand up and enact gun control, not only in legislatures, not only in Congress, but actually amend the American Constitution. And consider that in the same document where the founders put the Second Amendment, they would create another amendment to not only restrict the Second Amendment, but to actually restrict the rights of law-abiding citizens. When you read the entire Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, what are they all about? They're about preserving and protecting the rights of the individual. And this, I always want to call him Governor Moonbeam, but that's actually a California governor. That was Jerry Brown. This goes back.
That was Jerry Brown. I like to refer to Newsom as gruesome.
Yeah, I like it. But anyway, I always want to let you to know that that's the kind of bizarre thing we have coming. From liberal politicians. In the meantime, Carl's giving me the let's get the hell out of here signal, which is let's take a break because I went well past the bottom of the hour. So we're doing that. We're taking a break. Continue to call in. We've had great callers so far with your questions and comments. 317-239-9393. Right now we're taking a break. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
That didn't take long. A Night with WIBC, brought to you by Relay Indiana, is once again sold out. One night only. Tony Katz.
I avoid the use of the words dumb and stupid.
Kendall and Casey.
I'm just strapping you in. Go for it.
Hammer and Nigel.
Loud, it's chaotic.
And special guests. It'll be informative. It'll be funny. It won't be PC. Didn't get your tickets? Register and win the few we have left online at WIBC.com.
What makes education-based athletics in Indiana different from other youth sports programs?
Our coaches genuinely care about their student athletes as people, not just as athletes. And their top priority is teaching and mentoring, not winning and losing.
Our student athletes play for the love of the game. They have pride in their school and community. They want to represent something bigger than themselves.
Our parents and fans know the student athletes on the team. They've seen them grow up and care about them. They paint their faces, pack the stands, and cheer loud and proud. I'm Robert Falkins.
And I'm Carrie Rosati. We're both assistant commissioners of the IHSAA. High school sports in Indiana couldn't be more different from other youth sports programs.
And we wouldn't have it any other way. Be a champion of high school sports and buy a ticket to your high school's athletic events.
This is keeping education in front of athletics. This is passion you won't find anywhere else. This is your IHSAA.
Nobody cares for you like family. Family Heating and Air.
Hi, this is Malia with Family Heating and Air, and as a mom myself, I know it's really important to keep the kiddos healthy. Air quality, humidity, those are super big issues on my concern list. If you share any of these concerns, give family a call, 317-577-8077.
Family Heating and Air is your trusted local independent American Standard heating and air conditioning dealer.
AE Ammo is Greenwood's ammunition superstore. The largest variety in training, hunting, and self-defense ammo with the best prices locally guaranteed. Factory new 9mm FMJ ammo starting at $12 per 50-round box. Factory new 50-round boxes, $380 from $14.99 and $45 ACP from $18.99. And with the AE Ammo Customer Rewards Program, start earning points today towards money back to use on future purchases. Shop in-store or online at aeammo.com.
This hour on 93 WIBC is powered by Sundown Gardens, Hamilton County's fall nursery headquarters.
Fox News, I'm Ted Lindner. The Texas State Senate Saturday voting to acquit Attorney General Ken Paxton on all counts in his impeachment trial. After the votes, the Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick called for changes in protocol to prevent such proceedings from coming before the Senate.
Our founders expected better. It should have never happened this year. And hopefully it doesn't again unless we address this in the Constitution.
Patrick accused the Republican-led Texas House of rushing proceedings against Paxton, ultimately leading to his suspension as Attorney General. And Iran defending its move this weekend to bar some UN nuclear inspectors and is also accusing the U.S., Britain, France, and Germany of politicizing the IAEA watchdog. The UN nuclear watchdog has condemned Iran's move to bar about a third of the agency's most experienced inspectors assigned to the country. America's listening to Fox News.
Some days I cover up because of my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. Now I'm hitting the road with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, 3 out of 4 people achieved 90% clearer skin at 4 months. And Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Now is the time to plant. Warm days and cool nights provide the ideal growing environment. Visit Damon's Garden Center West at 4914 Rockville Road for beautiful homegrown mums in assorted colors, quality trees and shrubs, and a wide variety of grass seed. The knowledgeable staff is ready to assist you. For any of your garden and landscaping needs, stop at Damon's West.
Damon's Lawn and Garden, Indiana's most complete garden center.
Are you the parent of a 2 to 7-year-old? Listen closely for an exciting free radio offer. By now, you've probably heard of ABC Mouse, the Parents' Choice Award-winning online learning program that's actually changing the lives of early learners everywhere.
ABC Mouse is like a little one-on-one teacher. It has helped her so much.
Right now, we're offering a special radio promo to try it free for a month. But you have to go to abcmouse.com/radio to claim your free month. That's abcmouse.com/radio.
Sponsored by Age of Learning.
He's a Second Amendment attorney. He's an NRA certified firearms instructor. He's the gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. And hey, Carl, I had somebody send me a message on Twitter or X or whatever we're supposed to call it these days. Ask me what the song is that we play as a bumper. It's Joe Bonamassa. I actually sent it to you.
Yeah, it's high water everywhere.
Yeah, high water everywhere. That's what I thought that was right. But yeah, if anybody asking, that's Joe Bonamassa, High Water Everywhere. And I'm a big Joe Bonamassa fan, which you probably know if you've been listening to the Gun Guy Show for a while. But let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about what's going on out in New Mexico, where Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham, here a few days ago, issued an executive order saying that she was banning all open and concealed carry of firearms in Albuquerque, New Mexico for 30 days. And a lot of people reached out to me and asked me what I thought about that. And I said, well, it's absolutely, no question, unconstitutional. Because let's go back to the Bruin decision that I was talking about in the context of the Hunter Biden case, the Bruin Supreme Court case. The actual context of the ruling that gave us this text, history, and tradition test, which I love, by the way. I think that's exactly what the founders would want the Supreme Court to be applying. But the context was the Supreme Court's ruling on whether New York's handgun licensing scheme, which was a discretionary, what we call a may issue system, where some government bureaucrat got to scratch his chin and say, oh, yeah, well, you have a sufficient need to carry a handgun in public, but you over there, nope, you don't. And there had to be some existential threat against you at the time you're applying for a handgun carry license. Well, I live in a high crime neighborhood. Not good enough. I just want to be able to protect myself and my family. Not good enough. I occasionally carry large sums of money, or I transport, precious jewels to my business and back. Not good enough. That's why very few people got handgun licenses in New York. Now, it varied by what part of the state you lived in. But New York had this system where some people got to carry a gun in public, some didn't, even though they could each be law-abiding citizens. And the Supreme Court said no, the right to bear arms in public protects the right to carry a handgun in public. The carrying a handgun in public is a core freedom protected by the Second Amendment, and a discretionary licensing scheme where some people got to exercise that right and some people didn't is unconstitutional. And what I've said publicly, and I've said right here on the radio, is what in the hell makes this idiotic New Mexico governor think that where the Supreme Court just June of 2022 came out and said in the Bruin decision, banning some people from carrying a handgun in public is unconstitutional. What the hell made her think she could ban everyone from carrying a gun in public? And who on her staff said she was going to get away with it? It was not even a close call. And it's all based squarely on the Bruin decision. Now, I've given a couple of media interviews about it. In fact, I was on the David Knight show this last week, and producer Carl actually hooked me up with David Knight. He does a webcast and has a lot of followers. He has a lot of radio stations that play him, and he's a conservative's conservative. But he's had me on a few times, and he was asking me about this New Mexico situation. And he said, well, guy, does it make a difference that it's only a 30-day ban? And he wasn't suggesting that it did. He just wanted my take on that point. And does the governor have an argument with, well, we're only talking about 30 days? I said, well, that's like police violating the Fourth Amendment by kicking your door down without a warrant and no probable cause to enter your home, no warrant, but saying, oh, that doesn't violate the Fourth Amendment because we're not going to stay long. That doesn't make any sense. You either have a right that's protected under the Fourth Amendment or you don't. And a brief violation doesn't make it any less of a violation. And so what predictably happened? Just a few days after she announced this thing, a federal district court judge there in New Mexico, federal court, came out and said no, under the Bruin decision, this is absolutely unconstitutional, and actually issued a preliminary injunction preventing Albuquerque or the state of New Mexico from enforcing this thing. What did Governor Grisham then do? 2 or 3 days later, she came out and she said, well, okay, so the judge blocked us from instituting this across the board, which is banning all carry everywhere in public in Albuquerque. It wasn't the whole state of New Mexico, it was Albuquerque. She ostensibly was responding to a bit of a crime wave in Albuquerque, including the shooting of a couple of young kids. So instead of the whole city of Albuquerque, now she says she's going to ban carrying of handguns only in parks, playgrounds, places where parents and children gather. Does that make it constitutional? Tell you what, we'll get caught up here a little bit and go ahead and take a break. We'll come back for the last segment of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC.
Stopped on 465
From
again.
the north side
We haven't moved on 37
to
since
the south side,
Avoid south side 465
to the west side,
Yeah, stopped on westbound 465
to
again.
the east
People
side.
Gridlock all the way through the east side.
Traffic's a bear.
Drove into a ditch through the tree line.
And
just
Matt
shy.
Bear,
Traffic stop on the right.
he's
shoulder
a beast.
Traffic jam of epic proportion.
Helping you navigate the...
Oh, come on.
And the...
Let's go.
And the... With Matt Bear Traffic. Mornings and afternoons on 93 WIBC.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our next Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class is coming up Saturday, November 4th at Indy Arms. They're on the northeast side of Indy, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. This is 5 hours, the most important legal information that you need as an Indiana gun owner. You can sign up right online. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. Just go to tactical-firearms.com and click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Hey, Mark Dietel is the only expert real estate agent I would trust to sell my home or to find me a new home. Ben, living in Speedway, heard about Mark Dietel on our show, and after 48 years, you know what? It was finally time to downsize and cash in on his equity. Heard about Mark on the radio, hired him on the spot, and he delivered as promised. Mark got Ben a cash offer with no appraisal before the home even went on the market at the price that Ben wanted.
Mark Dietel is the only real estate expert that we trust and recommend with the sale of our homes. Mark Dietel guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. What are you waiting for? Call Mark Dietel today, 317-755-4232, or go to markdietel.com. Mark, D-I-E-T-E-L, markdietel.com. Tell him Hammer and Nigel sent you.
Hi, this is Denny Smith for Zero Res, and how about a game-winning strategy to tackle those ugly summer stains in those carpets? More than that, your carpets are the largest air filter in your home and can hold 4 times their weight in dirt. Where do you think everybody sneezes, wipes their shoes, and drops food? That's right, your carpets. And the kids are headed back to the germ pools at school, and they need a safe space when they get back home. It really is a great time to clean the carpets, and it's quick and easy to schedule online. Nobody but Zero Res has the patented electrolyzed ZR water that cleans with no soap, no harsh chemicals, and no residue to attract more dirt. They can even clean your ductwork to help you breathe easier. Duct cleaning improves the air quality in your home as well as the efficiency of your HVAC equipment and reducing energy costs. Schedule online today at ZeroResIndy.com and mention WIBC. You'll get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at $139, and they'll give you a free hallway and $50 off air duct cleaning too. For a smarter, lasting clean and really easy scheduling, visit ZeroResIndy.com.
Hey, this is Spencer Thompson at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus. Monday, September 18th is the final day for our Smith Brothers Blowout Sale. Made in Indiana, lifetime warranty, custom order, and free delivery. Save 50% off plus an extra 20% off when you pay cash. The best furniture at the lowest price ever from Smith Brothers of Bern, only at Thompson Furniture and Mattress in Columbus. Sale ends Monday, September 18th.
What's holding you back from learning the language you've always wanted to know?
Too hard.
Takes too long.
Not with Babbel. Babbel's lessons take just 15 minutes a day.
15 minutes isn't long.
Nope. And they're fun. So you don't realize you're learning a language, but you are. In 3 weeks, you're able to start having conversations. And Babbel's lessons are built around real life.
And with Babbel, it isn't hard.
It's perfect.
Now try Babbel free. Just go to Babbel.com. That's Babbel.com.
The latest local news, commentary from Tony Katz, Kendall and Casey, Hammer and Nigel, podcasts. Listen to the station live whenever, wherever, online at WIBC.com. Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back to the last segment here of The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So, Governor of New Mexico gets her butt kicked by a local federal district judge and says no, just like the whole world's been telling you. Just like that brilliant Guy Relford out in Indiana on the Gun Guy Show has been saying. No, he didn't say that. You can't ban all opening and concealed carry of handguns in the entire city of Albuquerque, even for 30 days. It's unconstitutional. So go away. She then come back and said, okay, well, I got spanked on that one. So now I'm going to say you just can't carry in parks and playgrounds, places where children and parents congregate. And I haven't seen the exact wording, whether it's just parks and playgrounds or it's just some other broad description of places where children and parents get together. I don't know. But where does that come from, and what's the angle here? Well, apparently somebody on her staff actually woke up after getting this district court opinion and actually went and read the Bruin decision. Because one thing that they said in the Bruin decision is that, yes, there is a right, in fact, a core freedom protected by the Second Amendment of carrying a handgun in public. And then, like they typically do, once they make a ruling like that, they always want to throw out a couple of caveats and say, okay, but, don't get too carried away with what we're saying here. And here they said, this is not to say that there's a right to carry in all places, and longstanding prohibitions in sensitive areas. That was the language in the Bruin decision. Sensitive areas have long been upheld in this country. So what are they talking about? Talking about schools, talking about airports, talking about prisons, places where for generations in this country, there likely been limitations, restrictions that have been upheld on the right to carry a gun. So what New York did immediately after the Bruin decision, because again, this was smacking New York around on their May issue licensing system. Like the governor of New York and the mayor of New York City came out and said, well, every damn place in public is sensitive. There you go. And there have already been additional lawsuits filed over that. And then they tried to come out and say, well, okay, all publicly owned land and, in New York City, Times Square, and they were going on. And I just listed all these places. And under the Supreme Court ruling in Bruin, we can get away with that because we're declaring them sensitive. Well, that's not how that works. You can't just declare them sensitive. There's nothing magical about the word sensitive. There are certain restrictions on where you can't carry a gun that have long been upheld in this country. Supreme Court just used a descriptor of those places to call them by that term. But there's nothing magical about that. Sensitive. Instead, are those areas, places where restrictions have long been upheld in this country. That's the next battleground after the Bruin decision, which is what truly is a sensitive area where regulation of firearms is all right, even under the Bruin decision. But that's where the New Mexico situation is going, because that's what she now thinks she can get away with by saying, aha, sensitive areas. Interesting thing, but and you're going to see more and more litigation on this and in other jurisdictions as well. Right now, that's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you come back. This is Sky Relford on 93 WIBC.
Fall in Indy, and if you hate painting year after year, do what your neighbor Edwina did. She called Rhino Shield.
So over the years, I had to touch up the house. I just got to the point where I couldn't spend any more money on the outside of the house. And when I saw Rhino Shield, I thought that was the answer to my problem.
And Rhino Shield's not paint. It's better.
I'd had painters here before, and it was usually quite a disaster with them leaving their equipment here and picking up things in the yard. But Rhino Shield was right on it.
Get the 25-year guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield right now for 15% off the regular price.
The gentleman said, if you're interested, give me a call. And I said, honestly, can you come tomorrow?
Here's owner Shane Smith.
This offer is limited, so